Uncovered secrets of the Winslow family, 5 haunted orphanages, yet 100 children forever cursed. Sarah Winslow learned the hard way that the idyllic streets of Maplewood were skin-deep. Just weeks before Halloween, the once vibrant suburb took on a patina of dread as whispers about the Winslow Orphanage began swirling through the community. People claimed it was cursed, its shadowy halls echoing with the cries of lost children. A chilling thought flared in Sarah's mind. Was her family destined to be part of that horror? In her mind's eye, she could see Jake's face, pale and tense, as he recounted how something moved in the corner of his room. The way Mia's drawings morphed into grotesque figures, twisting and snarling as she slept, sent a jolt of panic straight to Sarah's heart. Muffled whispers would slip through the cracks of her home, threading chilly tendrils through her bones at night. The home that should have once been a sanctuary was now a cavern of fears. With each flickering bulb and unexpected chill, Sarah's anxiety climbed. Wasn't she just imagining things? The grief of losing her husband was suffocating, and perhaps it was manifesting in strange, horrific ways, but her instincts screamed that there was something more. Just as she began to delve into the orphanage's history, goosebumps prickled her skin, those stories intertwined with dark secrets of her own family. With every turn, she felt eyes watching her from the shadows. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Sarah combed through old newspaper clippings, it became clear that the Winslow name wasn't merely tied to loss, it harbored a darkness that went back generations, to multiple orphanages, all rumored to be haunted. 5 children vanished from one, their fates swallowed by an unseen entity. It was the same in each tragic tale, inconceivable horror hidden behind the facade of normalcy. The principal, the neighbor everyone she once deemed trustworthy, turned out to have their own ghosts to carry. Strange incidents began amplifying her car's tires slashed, crude messages etched into the dirt, and terrifying dreams that left her gasping awake. Cold dread settled in, heavy as a stone. Had she endangered her kids by choosing to stay? She could sense whatever lingered in their home, and it was getting bolder, snatching the last remaining threads of safety. Determined to uncover the truth, she had no choice but to confront the very heart of the darkness, the Winslow Orphanage itself. As she stood before those crumbling doors, untouched by time yet overflowing with memories, a freezing wind gusted past her, almost pulling her in. It was then she understood she wasn't stepping into the orphanage for answers, but rather into the very maw of something ancient and unforgiving. The air thickened, the whispers amplifying into screams of the past, as realization struck. What she thought she sought to protect might already be lost. Was it too late? Her heart raced, panic clawing at her insides, as she pushed against the door, ready to plunge into the darkness that awaited her within. The door creaked open, revealing a corridor shrouded in darkness. Sarah's pulse quickened, each beat loud enough to drown out the whispers swirling around her. She stepped inside, the scent of mildew and decay assaulting her senses. Dust motes danced in the weak light filtering through grimy windows, painting a scene that felt frozen in time. Her breath hitched. The silence was oppressive, thick enough to cling to her skin. Shadows flickered, constantly shifting just out of her line of sight. As she moved deeper into the orphanage, a chill penetrated her bones. She could almost hear the memories locked within these walls. Laughter turned to cries, joy twisted into despair. A sound broke the hush, a soft thud, followed by scuttling across the floor. Sarah jumped, heart pounding. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling. No answer, only the echo of her own fear. Another thud, this time louder and closer. Desperate to flee, she pivoted, her foot crashing against an old toy left to collect dust, causing her to stumble. It was a small porcelain doll, its glassy eyes staring up at her with an unsettling familiarity. She recoiled, the chill of recognition racing up her spine. Mia had a doll just like this one. Where had it even come from? Get it together, she murmured, steadying her breath. She had to keep moving. Knowledge waited somewhere amidst the horrors. As she pressed on, the air seemed to thicken, wrapping around her throat. Whispers brushed against her ears, barely audible, yet laced with palpable anguish. The stories she heard from her neighbors, the tales about the vanished children, echoed in her mind. Each room she passed felt alive, filled with an energy that tried to claw its way into her thoughts. She pushed open a door, her hand trembling, revealing a nursery frozen in decay. Crib bars stood rusted, faded sheets hung limply, giving way to a heavy stillness. A single rocking chair swayed rhythmically, although no one remained to rock it. "Daddy," came a voice, sharp and clear. Sarah's heart lurched. She spun around, but nothing was there. Jake? Mia? Panic clawed at her throat. Was she hearing things? The house had a way of making her question everything, warping her reality into a macabre play. She stepped inside, her movements almost automated as the chair creaked beneath her weight. The chill deepened, filling the room with grief. Shadows thickened near the cribs, forming shapes that swirled together, blending into one coherent figure, just barely out of sight. "Leave," the voice whispered again, softer this time, filled with a sorrow that twisted in her chest. For a fleeting moment, she considered turning back. What if whatever haunted this place never let her leave? The thought paralyzed her, and she could feel her pulse quicken again. But as if the house sensed her hesitation, the atmosphere changed. An electrifying jolt shot through her, warning seizing her breath. "Mommy!" A child's voice followed, this time clearer, urgent. A cold sweat dripped from her brow, icy and relentless. It couldn't be her children. How could they? Shaking off her fear, Sarah scanned the room frantically, searching for her kids, but only empty spaces stared back. With sheer determination, she launched herself toward the door at the end of the hall, chased by an unseen force, shadows clawing at her heels, desperate to keep her tethered to the suffering that lingered within those walls. The feeling of being watched intensified, paralyzing her with dread, as if the very spirits of the cursed children reached out, hungry for her attention. What awaited her beyond that door? What horrors were buried within the deepest parts of the orphanage? Just as she reached for the knob, the whispers erupted into a cacophony, panic-induced heat rising to her face. Something was shadowing her from within the darkness, and it would not let her go. As she twisted the handle, a piercing scream shattered the air. It didn't come from her. She gasped, her breath hitching in her throat. Who else was here? Who else was trapped? Something was about to break, and she needed to decide: face whatever lurked behind that door, or run, risking the possibility of leaving her children behind forever. A familiar tingling terror enveloped her as she hesitated, caught between the door and the shadow in the corner. Just as she unlocked the door, it burst open, and darkness swallowed her whole. The darkness enveloped Sarah, pulling her into its twisted embrace. She stumbled forward, disoriented as her surroundings warped around her. The once familiar corridor dissolved into an abyss where vague shapes morphed and writhed like spirits in torment. Her heart raced as she grasped for reality, but it slipped through her fingers like the very shadows she feared. A breathy whisper slithered through the air. "Help us!" It was so faint, but the agony seeped into her bones, freezing her in place. Who are you?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling before the void. The silence that followed was unbearable, thickening the air. Suddenly, the floorboards creaked beneath her, a sinister echo that sent her pulse racing. A figure began to coalesce before her, its outline flickering dimly in the suffocating dark. It was a child, no older than 5, with hollow cheeks and wide, sorrowful eyes that reflected anguish beyond comprehension. "Please, don't leave us." The child's plea twisted Sarah's heart, tears welling in her eyes. Her instincts screamed for her to run, but the pleading gaze held her hostage. "Where are the others?" she managed to ask, desperation creeping into her tone. Stuck trapped, the child pointed towards the shadows, and with each movement, the air felt heavier. "We want to go home." A rush of dread rippled through her. What had happened here? Were these lost souls the vanished children whispered about? She swallowed hard, stepping closer, the figure urging her forward, but as she moved, the shadows grew more aggressive. They began to swirl around her, tightening like a noose, cold and suffocating. Leave, they hissed, the chorus of voices blending into a single, chilling command. No. She shouted, her fists clenched. I can't leave you. The child seemed to waver, flickering in and out of view. Help us, it cried again, but the sound grew distant. Sarah felt reality begin to tilt, her senses scrambling as if she were being pulled into a whirlpool of despair. Instinctively, she spun to run, but the shadows clawed at her, encasing her in a web of wispy darkness. Panic surged through her. She swung at the nothingness, determination propelling her forward. Her feet pounded against the floor, urging her toward the source of the child's cry. Then she saw a fading light through the chaos, a hinge of warmth breaking through the cold shroud. Mommy! Another voice, soft yet piercing, sliced through the veil of terror. Her heart stuttered. Help me! Mia! She cried, racing towards the glow. The shadows thrashed against her defiantly, but she pressed on. The moment her fingers brushed against the light, the shadows recoiled as if burned. Suddenly, she stood in a narrow, dimly lit room filled with cribs. Each sat empty, shadows lurking like nightmares in waiting. But one crib at the far end glowed with a fierce intensity, drawing her closer. Closer still, until she could see a face peering back at her, her daughter, Mia, reaching desperately towards her. Mommy! Please! Panic filled Mia's eyes. Hold on. I'm coming. Sarah lunged forward, barely dodging the flailing shadows, but they lunged at her ankles, grasping like desperate hands, preventing her from reaching Mia. Fear twisted her stomach into knots. Frustration surged, and she kicked them aside, forcing herself toward her daughter. The warmth radiated from the crib as she finally extended her hand, grasping Mia's small fingers. She could feel Mia's warmth, solid and real, but the shadows screamed louder, their voices jagged and furious. Then, a force pulled her backward. Leave! Leave! They shrieked, a cacophony of rage and agony. No! Sarah fought and fought, but the shadows had their grip, dragging her away while Mia's small hand slipped from her grasp. Mommy! Mia cried, her voice stretching into the void, fading like the last embers of a fire. Terror pierced Sarah's heart as she was drawn backward, the shadows celebrating their victory with a desperate, cacophonous shout. Stuck forever just as the darkness threatened to swallow her whole, a sudden brightness overwhelmed her senses. Sarah! Gasped, feeling her feet leave the ground as she was flung through a portal. Pain shot through her body, the shrieks of despair echoing thereafter, and in an instant, she landed not in safety, but on the dusty floor of the orphanage once more, gasping for breath. Alone, the shadows snickered around her, watching, waiting for their next moment to lash out. In the stillness that followed, a single question echoed in her mind, chilling her to her core. What had she just unleashed? As if in response, a shadow flickered beside her, and the whispers returned, thickening in the air, threatening to engulf her once more. What was lurking just out of sight, and how far would she have to go to confront it? The chill wrapped around Sarah like a damp blanket, pressing down until it felt almost suffocating. She pushed herself up from the floor, heart racing. The shadows watched, their forms undulating with a mocking fluidity. Each flicker sent a chill skittering down her spine. What had happened? Where was Mia? Mommy helped. The whisper drifted through the room, spiraling around her and sinking into her thoughts. Her breath caught. Was Mia still here? Or were the shadows playing with her mind? Panic coursed through her. She couldn't lose her baby. With a sudden surge of determination, she bolted to her feet, straining her ears for any sign of her daughter. Mia? I'm here. Where are you? The shadows recoiled slightly, hissing in response, and Sarah felt the pull of something unseen dragging at her, threatening to draw her back into despair. Stay away from her! She screamed, voice hoarse. She stumbled forward, eyes wide as she scanned the room. Shadows danced on the walls, reaching out like skeletal fingers. "Where are you?" The whispers twisted into a cacophony, rising and falling like a tide, each voice a blend of fear and hunger. They begged and pleaded, becoming more insistent. "Join us, they know," she shouted, shaking her head fiercely, trying to block out the torment. But the more she resisted, the stronger the shadows became. They sucked the warmth from the air, turning it frigid. Every breath felt like swallowing ice, then, a low growl reverberated through the air. Sarah froze, feeling the weight of unseen eyes. "Mia!" From the corner of the room, a small light flickered, a weak, trembling glow. Sarah zeroed in, heart pounding as hope ignited within her, propelling her forward against the tide of darkness. But the shadows tightened their grip, seeping into her skin, freezing her blood. "Help us!" They wailed again, visible figures now emerging from the dark, children, their faces twisted in silent screams, eyes full of anguish. Sarah felt a sharp pang in her heart as memories flooded back, the lost kids, their identities stripped away, forever veiled by darkness. "Get away from me!" she shouted, a primal instinct to survive racing through her veins. The light pulsed, and she found herself lost in its radiance. It called to her, promising warmth and safety. Driven by love and desperation, she broke free from the suffocating hold of the shadows, lunging toward the source. But just as she reached out, the light flickered violently, dimming to almost nothing. "No! Don't go out!" As the shadows closed in, Sarah felt her surroundings waver, stretching and twisting. The figures of the children shifted, merging with the darkness until only their haunting eyes gleamed at her from the abyss. "Help us!" They cried again, this time in unison, their voices intertwined. It was more than just a plea, it was a demand, and it chilled her to the bone. In that moment, Sarah knew, she would have to face whatever horror lay beyond the flickering light if she was to save Mia and all the others trapped here eternally. Steeling herself, she stepped forward, feeling the darkness claw at her heels. Suddenly, a shrill laugh broke the air, a sound that echoed through her very core. "You can't escape us!" The shadows began to shift, swirling with more energy, more malice, eager to engulf her entirely. Sarah felt fear grip her chest, a vice tightening around her heart. She had a choice to make. To stay and confront whatever was coming, or to run and risk losing everything, her daughter, the chance to set these children free. As she teetered on the edge of decision, the light flared once more. "Mommy, please!" Mia's voice cut through the tumult, sharper and more urgent than ever. The shadows screeched, sensing her resolve. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped into the light, her determination as fierce as the darkness surrounding. What would she find on the other side? Was this the key to liberating Mia, or a descent into her worst nightmare? "Don't look back," she whispered, plunging into the glow, ready to face whatever awaited her in the heart of fear itself. The light enveloped Sarah, a searing warmth breaking through the icy grip. The shadows hissed, their voices turning into a desperate crescendo as she crossed the threshold. Just as she thought she'd escape, a sharp tug pulled at her, dragging her into a swirling void. She landed hard on a cold, damp surface. The air was heavy, thick with the weight of sorrow. Everywhere she looked, shadows loomed, their shapes swirling around her in darker forms. They whispered her name, repeating it like a damning chant. "Sarah, Sarah, where are you, Mia?" she cried, fear piercing her heart. It echoed back in ripples, swallowed whole by the void. She clutched her stomach, nauseated by the overwhelming darkness. Beneath the palpable dread, something flickered in the distance, a flicker of life. With shaky legs, she moved toward it. Each step made the whispers grow louder, clawing at her ears. Visions of the children haunted her thoughts, their faces twisted in pain. "Help us!" they cried, their pleas dragging her down into despair. "Shut up!" she shouted, hands pressed tightly to her head. The sound of a small voice broke through. "Mommy? Mia?" Sarah rushed toward the flicker, hands outstretched, the blur of light pulsating stronger with each step. Shadows flared at her side, lurching like hungry beasts. Their clawed hands reached for her, brushing against her skin, cold and clammy, sending chills cascading through her. She pushed them away, desperate not to lose sight of the light. "Mommy, please, I'm scared." Mia's voice pitched high, laced with terror. It was close now, that flickering glow. Sarah felt wind rush past her face as if the darkness was exhaling, giving her breath in exchange for vulnerability. "Stay with me." She shot back, urging her feet to move faster despite the heavy air trying to pin her down. Just ahead, her daughter's silhouette danced at the edge of the light. The shadows recoiled, screeching curses that rattled her bones. Mia. She could see her clearly now, the outline of her little body glowing against the darkness. But the closer Sarah got, the more frantic Mia appeared, her expression torn between hope and fear. "Help me, Mommy. Get me out." The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of rage ricocheting off unseen walls. Sarah stumbled, feeling the ground beneath her shift. A hole opened up, a bottomless pit of darkness swirling with wicked laughter. "Join us!" they hissed, voices intertwined like serpents. "Never!" Sarah screamed, an iron will building within her. She spotted Mia, her daughter reaching out, eyes wide and pleading. With renewed strength, Sarah surged forward, bridging the gap, wrestling with the claws of shadow. "I'll save you!" she shouted with everything inside her. She was almost there, her fingers barely grazing Mia's outstretched hand. But then a freezing current surged, dragging her backward. Just as she felt the warmth of Mia's hand slip from her grip, a shadow leapt forward, encasing Sarah's wrist in an icy grip. She felt the crushing despair wash over her, pulling her down into the abyss. "No!" she shouted, vision blurring, clawing at the encroaching shadows. The sound of Mia's cries faded, pulling her away, an echo fading into silence. Broken pieces of memories flashed, laughter in the park, bedtime stories, cooking together. But that wasn't all. Darkened corners filled her mind with dismal truths, news clippings of missing children, families torn apart by grief. "Help us! Help us!" The restless spirits howled, fading echoes of the past intertwining with Mia's terrified voice. Sarah grappled with that reality, the truth threatening to unravel her very essence. In a desperate bid, Sarah pulled against the shadow's grasp, a surge of primal energy racing through her. "I want to let you take her." Her heart pounding, she surrendered to the light, letting it fill her entirely, bright and blinding, forcing the shadows to dissipate. "Mia!" she called out one last time. As the light surged, breaking through the shadows, a sudden calmness enveloped her. But she realized too late, the darkness wasn't gone, it had merely receded. Waiting, biding its time, would she be strong enough to confront it again, or had she only made things worse? The shadows stirred, whispering darker secrets as a new figure began to emerge from the void. The figure stepped forward, emerging from the thick coat of darkness like a predator drawn to its prey. Sarah's heart raced, and she could barely breathe. The details sharpened. A face. Familiar but twisted. It was the old woman from the orphanage, the one who haunted her childhood filled with nightmares and whispered stories meant to scare children. "You came back, dear Sarah," she crooned, her voice smooth as oil yet crackling with malice. "Leave me alone." Sarah shouted, but her voice trembled. The shadows crawled back into the corners, recoiling as the woman moved closer. Cold, calculating eyes bore into her, reminding Sarah of the very terror that haunted her dreams. "Mia's not the only one who needs help," the old woman said, extending a skeletal finger, pointing past Sarah into the depths of the void. Shadows swirled wildly, forming a semblance of faces, disfigured children, their mouths stretching wide in silent screams. The sight twisted in her stomach. "Stop it!" Sarah yelled, clenching her fists. The walls of darkness closed in on her, pulsating like a heartbeat, surrounding her with memories she desperately tried to suppress. She took a step back, heart racing, mind swirling with fear. "You've always been drawn here, haven't you?" The old woman's voice shifted into a sing-song chant. "You want to save her? To save them all?" The depth of their suffering gnawed at Sarah. "What is this place? What do you want?" Shadows yanked at her edges, pulling her toward the old woman, threatening to tear her apart. "Power, my dear. Their anguish is a perpetual source." The woman's lips curled into a grin, revealing twisted teeth. "And you? You're the key." The realization hit like ice water. Sarah felt the oppressive weight of the past sinking into her bones, every child lost, every moment of weakness she'd ever felt. They were all connected to her in this mire of horror. "No. I don't want anything to do with this." She screamed back, every word a defiance. The shadows hissed and roared, growing louder, and for an instant, it appeared she would be swallowed by them. With a sudden rush of clarity, Sarah remembered Mia's warm laugh, and the comforting embrace of her little body. The thought steeled her resolve, pushing back the walls of despair threatening to suffocate her. "I will fight!" She shouted, summoning the flickering light within. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from her warmth as she summoned every ounce of strength. "I refuse to be another victim." The energy coiled around her, pushing the darkness back, inch by inch. But then it came, that familiar chill. The old woman's laughter echoed like thunder in her ears. "You think you can escape, child? You've awakened what lies beneath." In that moment, the ground trembled, and the very shadows coalesced, forming into something greater, something darker, the essence of despair itself. It rumbled deep within the void, reverberating through Sarah's bones. "Join them!" The giant silhouette hissed, arms reaching for her as she sensed 1,000 souls crying out, their anguish blending into a singular roar. "No!" Sarah screamed, scrambles to escape as flickering images of Mia flashed before her, the darkness blurring with fear. But as she turned to run, the shadows surged forward, a tidal wave of torment threatening to sweep her away. In a final act of desperation, Sarah lunged back toward the light, calling out, "Mia! I'm coming!" But darker thoughts clawed at the edges of her mind. Had she failed? Would she find her daughter only to lose herself forever? The frantic whispers surrounded her once more, gripping her with icy fingers. Help us," echoed everywhere, and one voice cut through the din, the unmistakable plea of her missing daughter rising above. "Mom!" Mia's voice rang out, filled with a desperate urgency that shattered Sarah's heart. With renewed vigor, Sarah braced herself to push through the overwhelming shadows, determined not to be another lost soul. But would she be strong enough to find Mia before the darkness consumed them both? The shadows shrieked in anger, and Sarah knew the true fight was only beginning. The shadows writhed around her, thick and suffocating, clawing at Sarah's legs as she stumbled, trying to escape their grasp. Each flicker of light she had summoned flickered dangerously, casting dancing shadows on the walls of despair. She could hear them whispering, the spirits of the forgotten, their cries mingling with the old woman's mocking laughter. "Did you think you could save her?" The old crone sneered, stepping into the shimmering glow. "You've already failed, darling. No." Sarah screamed, pushing forward, closer to the abyss where Mia's voice echoed. She gritted her teeth, squeezing her eyes shut against the encroaching darkness. But even in the dark, she could feel the pain. The boy whose toy she had found, the girl who had cried out for a mother. Their faces flashed behind her eyelids, desperate eyes pleading for her acknowledgement, their fates tied to hers. Suddenly, a searing pain shot through her leg. The ground beneath her quaked as she fell to her knees, a sharp stone piercing her skin like a curse. She gasped, fingers tensing against the rough soil. It felt alive, thrumming with energy, but whose energy? A faint glow emerged from the crevice in the earth. It flickered, an unsteady beacon amidst the swirling chaos. Sarah's heart raced. Was it a way out? Or a trap? Mia. She called again, her voice breaking through the cacophony of cries. The glow pulsed in response, beckoning her closer. Adrenaline fueled her limbs as she crawled toward it, ignoring the sharp stabs of pain from her injury. The old woman surged forward, a tidal wave of shadows behind her. "Come back, dear Sarah, they need you," she crooned, her tone sweet yet bitter like a poisonous flower. "You can't escape what you are," but Sarah fought against the pull of despair. The voices had changed, now a chorus of laughter. The children were joining her. "Help us, Sarah," they sang, their harmony breaking the stranglehold of fear. With one final push, she reached the light, grasping its luminescent surface. It whispered to her, offering warmth and clarity. She could almost see Mia's face, her smile glowing back. "Mommy," Mia's south voice echoed, "too close, too real." "Where are you?" Sarah shouted, her heart tearing with fear. "Help them. Help us." The children cried out, and for a moment, Sarah felt their pain intertwine with her resolve. She wasn't just fighting for Mia, she was fighting for every child whose laughter had been stolen, for every shushed whisper of fear in the night. "Together!" she shouted, pulling the light closer. It enveloped her in its brilliance, pushing against the suffocating gloom. She could feel the shadows recoil from its brightness, but they were relentless. The old woman screeched in rage as Sarah gathered strength from the other souls. "This light belongs to me. I claimed it from you. That's where you're wrong," Sarah screamed back. The light blazed brighter, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. As the darkness pressed against her, she felt the warmth expand, an energy she knew she could wield. In that moment, realization jolted through her. This wasn't just about fighting against the darkness, it was a call to unite. Her love could echo through the void, a guide for lost souls. But the old woman surged forward anew, a veil of shadows brewing into a violent storm. "Run while you still can. You're all I need to keep this power." With one last effort, Sarah shouted, "We are stronger together. For every child lost, we summon a strength greater than fear." The pulse of light responded, and the shadows trembled. But the old woman's laughter erupted once more. "You think this changes anything? The darkness feeds on hope. Your little light won't save you." As the void writhed and twisted, Sarah felt something snap inside her. Was she truly out of time? Or did she have one last chance to discover what lurked beneath her fears? Before she could contemplate her next move, a deafening roar erupted, sending shockwaves through the air. The light brightened as she was drawn into its core, feeling the tug of countless souls urging her forward. What if she wasn't merely an escapee but the catalyst to break their curse? Would she face the ultimate sacrifice to save Mia and bring justice to the forgotten children? The light surged. Unsure of what awaited her, Sarah stepped forward into the unknown. Inside the light, Sarah felt weightless, the tormenting shadows receding like a bad dream. But that relief was short-lived. There was an ominous hum, dark and resonant, swelling around her. She could hear it, a low, dreadful chant, echoing from the depths. The glow warped around her, revealing a desolate landscape. Cracked earth fissured like a spider's web stretched impossibly wide, and in the distance, dark silhouettes loomed over twisted trees, their branches clawing at the sky. The world was a twilight realm, suspended between hope and hopelessness. "Mia." Her voice cracked, cutting through the stillness. She took a shaky step, the ground beneath her trembling as if it sensed her fear. From somewhere ahead, her daughter's laughter floated back to her, a sweet sound laced with desperation. "Mommy! Help!" The breath hitched in Sarah's throat. She ran, heart pounding, legs pushing against an unseen force trying to drag her back. The shadows lurked at the edges of her vision, hissing and swirling like a tempest. She could feel the old woman's presence weaving through the air. "You can't hide from your fate, dear girl." The crone's voice slithered in like smoke, acrid and suffocating. "You'll see that darkness is your true home." Sarah gritted her teeth, forcing herself to push forward. Every step felt like wading through molasses, each breath a battle against the choking fog of despair. I won't let you take her. I will find you, Mia. Ahead, the shadows thickened into a wall, a swirling mass absorbing the light she had summoned. It loomed like a mountain, almost alive, breathing darkness that pulsed with cruel intent. Join us, whispered the cacophony, voices of the lost mingling like a twisted lullaby. Then, a scream cut through the darkness, raw and laced with anguish. Mommy! Help! Mia! The cry tore from Sarah's lips, reverberating with fear. She pressed harder against the wall of shadow, light flickering dangerously at the edges of her resolve. With one hand on the surface, she felt her fingers sinking into the cold, like grasping ice. Suddenly, a blinding flash ignited from within, a surge of power that twisted through her veins. The light did not just repel the shadows, it exploded outward, a shockwave that pushed against the sinister force. It consumed her in warmth and energy, a fire igniting hope in the bleakness, but in that moment of clarity, Sarah's eyes widened. This wasn't just her fight, she was the anchor for every innocent soul trapped in a web of darkness. Each breath became a prayer, channeling strength through the light. Together, she shouted, summoning the echoes of the lost children, their laughter rising to a crescendo. We are not afraid. The shadows writhed, shrieking in frustration, but they were losing their grip. With every thrust of light, the old woman's laughter turned into a howl of rage. The air thickened, vibrating with raw energy, a fight unlike anything Sarah had ever faced. She could feel the souls of the children reaching for her, fingers of light entangling with hers, urging her forward, but just as victory felt close enough to grasp, an icy wind howled through, chilling her bones. The shadows consolidated, coiling back, and then moved with a ghastly speed, a flash of black rushing for her throat. Foolish girl! The old woman hissed, her eyes glowing feral. You cannot save them all. Sarah felt a surge of dread curl around her heart, squeezing tight. Were there truly too many to save? Did she dare risk everything on the chance of reaching Mia? The wall of shadows advanced, and Sarah's eyes narrowed. This would not be the end, not when hope still flickered in the faces of every lost child. She took a deep breath, the determination swelling in her chest. But before she could act, the shadows engulfed her vision, plunging her into the unknown. What awaited her on the other side? Would she uncover the truth of the torment that bound these children, or would the darkness consume her whole? The chill of the shadows bit deeper than before, wrapping around Sarah like a vice. She gasped, suffocating under the weight of despair, but in the darkness, something flickered, a memory. The feel of Mia's small hand in hers, the warmth of her giggles on bright summer days. With every ounce of her being focused on that feeling, Sarah pushed against the darkness. I will find you, Mia. I will not let you be lost. Her voice trembled but carried a biting resolve. The shadows tightened around her, almost palpable, cold fingers brushed against her skin, pulling, urging her to let go. Distant whispers squirmed in her ears, laced with sorrow. Join us, they begged. The chilling allure of surrender tugged at her heart, the comforting promise of release. Sarah clenched her fists, forcing herself to stand firm. No. I refuse to be weak. She summoned the light again, willing it to pierce through the suffocating dark. She could feel it gathering within her, a burning ember igniting her soul. Suddenly, she was jerked forward, as if caught in a current. The shadows screamed, a high-pitched wail that reverberated in her bones. She stumbled into a vast chamber, the sudden rush of brightness blinding her. As her vision adjusted, Sarah's heart dropped. The chamber was filled with crumbling statues of children, their faces twisted in anguish. They gazed outward, frozen in expressions of horror, mouths agape in silent screams. The very essence of the room radiated an eternal mourning, thick and suffocating. See what you've unleashed, hissed the old woman's voice, echoing from every corner. These are the lost souls doomed to linger while you chase a ghost. Sarah shook her head, refusing to let despair creep in. I am not afraid, I will bring them home. With renewed determination, she stretched her hands toward the statues, feeling the weight of their sorrow. Each child was a story untold, a life interrupted, a bond severed too soon. "Help me!" she cried out, channeling her strength. The air began to shimmer with light, the statues vibrating with a low hum, pulsating with an energy she could almost taste. Then, a tremor surged through the room, a force palpable and wild. The shadows coiled tighter, screeching, shattering the fragile peace she had begun to build. "You cannot free them. They belong to me. You are not strong enough, Sarah." The walls seemed to close in, darkness swirling like a raging storm. Fear gripped her throat as the old woman loomed closer, teeth bared in an unsettling grin. She could feel the pull of the abyss that was her fate, how easy it would be to succumb, but as Sarah's resolve faltered, something warm brushed against her leg. It was the essence of the children: love, hope, laughter surging through her like wildfire. "Mommy!" A tiny voice echoed from the depths of her mind, the sound wrapping around her heart. "Mia!" Sarah's voice broke, filled with fierce determination. "You are not lost. I am coming for you." With a surge of will, Sarah thrust her hands upward. Light exploded, engulfing the dark chamber in a blinding blaze. The statues began to tremble, their silence piercing through like glass shattering. Light cascaded down like rain, soaking the darkness, unraveling the threads that bound the souls within. As the shadows writhed and twisted, the old woman's laughter transformed to a howl of fury. "You cannot stop what has already begun." In the swirling maelstrom, Sarah's heart raced. Would this light save them? Would it shatter the crone's dark grip once and for all? Then, in the midst of the chaos, she saw a flicker of light beyond the tempest, a form half-formed, radiant and fragile. Was it Mia? Was her daughter within reach? But an all-consuming darkness surged forward, snapping like a whip toward her face. Sarah braced herself, steeling her will against the tide of dread that threatened to drown her. Everything hung in the balance. Would she harness the light to break free, or would the shadows drag her into their abyss, taking Mia with them forever? The light pulsed with a rhythm that matched the frantic beat of Sarah's heart. Every ounce of her strength fought against the tumultuous shadows. She could almost feel the warmth of Mia's laughter mingling with the energy swirling around her, a beacon guiding her through the chaos. "I'm here, Mia. I'm coming for you." With a roar of rage, the shadows coiled tighter, but Sarah held her ground. The chamber vibrated as the statues of lost children shimmered, their tortured faces slowly changing, hope softening the edges of despair. For a moment, they seemed to reach back toward her, fragile yet fierce. "Help us!" they cried in unison, and with their plea, the torrent of light erupted from Sarah, illuminating every corner of the dark abyss. It surged forward like a tidal wave of hope, splintering the darkness into shards that faded into the ether. The old woman's howls of fury gave way to terrified screams, drowning in the radiant burst. "Do you think you can cast me away?" she shrieked, her form flickering like a broken bulb. But Sarah felt it, an undeniable strength coursing through her, fueled by love and desperation. "Together!" she yelled, every ounce of conviction woven into the word. "I will not let you take her. Not today." With each proclamation, the luminous energy surged stronger, pulsating to the very core of her being. Shadows shrieked, recoiling from the blaze of light, their grip slackening. Sarah pressed forward, breaking through the boundaries that had held her captive for too long. Suddenly, she caught sight of a figure flickering at the edges of her consciousness. Mia. Heart racing, breath hitching, she pushed through the last vestiges of darkness. The energy wrapped around her, molding into a protective barrier that sent the shadows retreating in apparent fear. Brightness enveloped her like a warm embrace, making it feel as if every soul she had encountered was rallying behind her, strengthening her resolve. Then there was a rush of warmth, love, and hope, a blinding orb at the center of the chaos. Sarah lunged toward it, her heart singing with each step despite the howling voices swirling around her. "I'll keep you safe," She cried into the tempest, the light exploded triumphantly the moment she grasped the essence, reuniting with Mia. Instantly, their connection ignited into a blaze, pure and unwavering, obliterating the shackles of despair. Every cry, every whispered plea faded into resonant silence. "Mama!" Mia's voice reached her, crystal clear, pulling her deeper into the warmth. Sarah enveloped her in a fierce embrace, a fierce shield against the darkness threatening to encroach. "I've got you, my sweet girl." The old woman howled, shadows swirling violently as Sarah and Mia stood firm against the current, united. She could feel every other child's spirit behind them, merging into the delirious pulse of light that pushed against the screams, shattering them into fragments. "Leave us be!" Sarah roared, channeling love and resilience into the light blaring outward, obliterating everything in its path, peeling layers of fear from her heart. With one last anguished cry, the shadows dissolved into the abyss, sucked into the light like water through a drain. The old woman's twisted form faded, howls of anger morphing into waning echoes, a ghostly reminder of the tormented souls released from their binds. As the brightness settled, Sarah knelt with Mia in her arms. The remnants of darkness dripped away like storm clouds dispersing, and for the first time, silence inhabited the chamber, enveloping them in peace. "Mommy, I was scared." Mia sniffled against her shoulder, but Sarah held her tighter. "I know, baby. But we did it. We set them free." The room pulsed with warmth now, the chilling presence replaced by a soft glow that illuminated remnants of hope filling the air. A gentle breeze swept through, a whispering echo of gratitude, sending through the walls the vibes of countless children, finally liberated. With a final glance around, Sarah stood, feeling the unconditional bond of love guiding them forward. "Let us go home," she declared, gripping Mia's hand. No longer scared, they stepped toward a new beginning, into the light that awaited them beyond the ruins. As they crossed the threshold, the echoes faded into whispers of laughter. Children free at last, their spirits soaring high above the remnants of shadows. In her heart, Sarah knew this wasn't just a new chapter for them, it was a testament to resilience, woven from love that would never dim. Light wasn't merely an escape, it was their rebirth. Together, they would create a future untainted by past horrors. So, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the world in shades of orange and gold, Sarah and Mia walked hand in hand into their new life, leaving the darkness behind for good. Now that you've reached the thrilling conclusion of this tale, I have an important request. You need to subscribe now if you want to be the first to see our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support means everything, and listen up, flood that comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I really want to hear from you. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support and keep our community growing.